Nikki.
And we'll find out which one of our viewers will win the chance to create their dream garden at the Hampton Court Palace Flower Show, courtesy of The One Show and the RHS.
It's an exciting night, it really
They
is.
look tense
They
over
do.
there.
Well, the tension's going to mount as the programme goes on. And comedian Reginald D. Hunter starts his new tour right here in the studio. Yes. But, well, he's looking a bit more anxious than usual, don't you think, Alex? Oh, that'll be why. Oh, goodness me. Now, there is Nikita, the eagle, and, well, she swooped in to ask for your help to find her missing mate. It's a sad story. Hope you can help us out.
But luckily, our guest tonight will make Nikita feel right at home.
Welcome to the Hotel California. Such a lovely place, such a lovely place, such a lovely place.
From the Eagles, it's Glenn Fry and Joe Walsh. Brilliant. That's welcome back to The One Show. Yeah.
It's nice to have you here. Now, it's a very sad day, guys, for British music today, because this morning a band called JLS announced that they were breaking up. Matt only stopped crying just before the show.
I just pulled myself together.
It's been a terrible day.
And where were you when you heard the news?
I was in bed this morning while I was asleep. But anyway, they're doing a farewell tour and then they'll have a greatest hits. But what advice would you have for them as a band who have broken up in the past? You know, in those weeks now, after they've done their farewell tour, how will they feel? What advice would you have for them to sort of keep going?
Well, it's not that big of a deal. We break up all the time.
Well, JLS fans would be happy to hear that because they might reconnect.
I think you should break up for a long time.
Right.
You know what I mean? Don't, you know.
Yeah, don't mess around.
Yeah, like we broke up. We broke up for 14 years. And that worked really well for us.
Yeah, well, it's all in this brilliant documentary, which we will talk more of as the evening progresses. But JLS fans, well, it goes without saying, you know, my niece, she isn't happy. But it did get us thinking, which other bands breaking up have caused the most heartache?
The Beatles split up in 1970, The Jam in 1982. In 1996, Take That split up. It was a terrible year for Matt. And now JLS have broken up. Shock horror. So what happens to us when our favourite bands split up?
So I was upset when Destiny's Child broke up. In particular, I was a big Destiny's Child fan.
When the Jackson 5 broke up, I was feeling pretty void and upset.
No more dressing up like Mel B.
Wondering who's going to fill that space of music, you know?
I had got all of their T-shirts. So I had Ronan, had Stephen, had them all on there. And then I thought, gosh, great, I've got one for every day of the week. And then they broke up and I thought, oh, I can't wear them anymore because it just makes me too sad.
Yeah, I was very hurt, very hurt.
Why do you think it is then that people get so affected?
Well, you don't quite know why you have this feeling inside you. It becomes part of you. And together as girls, you sort of weep about it.
When they break up, it just, it leaves you nowhere to go.
Is that a tear I can see?
Not quite,
Do you need
but
a hug?
Actually I do.
Okay.
And the perfect track for that as well. You know, when you were growing up, lads, which bands were you really upset about when they split up and went their separate ways?
The Beatles.
The Beatles.
Yeah.
And were you incredibly upset that day? I mean, obviously there's some JLS people out there that are distraught today, and your fans will have been exactly the same when you split up the first time.
Oh, I think we went out with a bit of a whimper. You know,
what makes you say that?
They went out with more of a bang. You know, we just sort of stopped. But you know, I think everything. The Beatles meant so much. It was not just the music with them. You know, it was a whole phenomena that we were all sort of part of this movement.
Yeah.
You know,
it's what got you started as well, isn't it? You saw them on the television.
It's nice, you know. So yeah, we were sad when the Beatles broke up.
Yeah. Any other bands, Joe, spring to mind?
The band called The Band.
Yeah.
National Treasure, that band. And the last waltz was beautiful, but that was their last show. And I just always thought they weren't done yet.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you guys are still together and we'll be talking about your past and your future throughout the show tonight. Now then, Angela Rippon is back on the consumer warpath to protect the rights of One Show viewers. Isn't that right, Angela?
Too right, Alex. And this time it's the fraudsters who are stealing people's identities to borrow money from a company that claim that they're straight talking. but they don't always seem to be listening.
They're the best-known payday loans company in the business.
Wonga.com, straight talking money.
But it seems that not all the money that flows through Wonga's system is as straight as the company might like. Some people who've never used a payday loan company have faced demands from Wonga for repayment, or worse, had money taken out of their bank account.
Thanks to fraudsters, they've been saddled with someone else's debt. And as a result, they're being chased for hundreds, indeed in some cases thousands of pounds, that they don't actually owe.
Student Victoria Thornley was a victim of fraud. She was baffled to receive a missed payment letter from Wonga.com saying that she owed them over £500 when she hadn't borrowed a penny, and she didn't find it easy to put things right.
How long did it take for Wonga to respond to you?
First of all, they told me I had to ring the police, get a crime log number, which I did. Then they had to ring them back at my expense, and they said that it was going to be 48 hours. Never heard anything back from them, so I had to ring them again a couple of days later, and they told me that they'd lost my phone number, and that I was going to have to wait another 48 hours for them to sort things out again.
Eventually, Wonga called Victoria and confirmed that the account, mysteriously opened in her name and with her contact details, had been closed down. But just 2 months later, she received another letter from Wonga demanding repayment of £263 for a new loan, which again she had not taken out.
If somebody had tried to open another account, why hadn't it flashed up on their screen saying this account's been done for fraud again?
Fraud expert Andrew Goodwill believes that it's not uncommon that with some payday loan companies, it seems that the account that the money is paid into could not be the one from which it's going to be paid back. So even though you have never had the money, if a fraudster's used your details, it could be you that's asked to pay up.
How can you open up an account if the name that you are giving is not the same as the bank account that you're going to put the money into?
The name really doesn't have any relationship to the bank account number. It's not something that a bank's going to check. All they're interested in is the number itself of the account. So it could be Joe Bloggs, because at the end of the day, the bank is going to put money into that account.
This year, the Office of Fair Trading warned the top 50 payday loan companies that they must have adequate procedures to prevent identity fraud. They even closed down one payday loan company, MCO Capital, and fined them £500,000, partly for failing to make sufficient ID checks. However, online payday lenders insist that they do have the right checks in place to protect their consumers. Nadia Mounsey wouldn't agree. Criminals somehow got hold of her debit card details, which she only discovered when Wonga took almost £1,000 from her account to pay off 2 loans that she knew nothing about. And she wasn't satisfied with their response.
What was your reaction?
I was pretty upset, to be honest. Partly because I just was astounded that it was allowed to happen.
Did they explain how it was that your card details were being used for someone else to get money in your name?
There was no explanation whatsoever from Wonga. They just came, I think they just issued a standard statement saying they do take, security measures. But ultimately it seems like they are issuing loans to unscrupulous people and they're not insisting that the same card details be used to pay back the loans.
Nadia's bank refunded the stolen money, but she still wants answers as to how Wonga could let her card details be exploited. Wonga claim only 0.1% of all transactions on their site are fraudulent. But I wanted to know exactly what they're doing to tackle this sort of fraud, and what they say to people like Nadia and Victoria, who are disappointed with how their problem was handled. The company didn't want to be interviewed, but I gave them a call to find out more.
Are you confident that you have in place enough security to ensure that the public are protected?
They stressed that what's happening here is criminal, and though they're confident that they're doing all that they can to stop it, fraudsters will always find new ways to beat the system.
Now it's just the vulnerability that you know that your card details are out there somewhere and that it could be Wonga, I'm not sure who else, but basically anyone can access your card details and then just be paying off the loan on someone else's behalf.
It's too bad.
And yes, well, you are adamant not to let this lie, Angela, and Wonga have now made a further statement. So what have they said now?
Well, as you'd expect, they say that they're working very closely with the police and other experts to ensure that criminals cannot go on using their website in this way. And they've also, they say, got selective software that actually declines 2/3 of first-time applications. But they also went on to say that they do now have a dedicated team that deals with cases like Nadia and Victoria, but they do acknowledge that they could have actually handled their cases better, and they do regret any additional stress that was caused to them.
So they're holding their hands up.
They're holding their hands up,
Because, I mean, this is a very stressful situation, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Nadia and Vicky, like lots of other people, have written, they've reported the fraud, but yet these letters keep coming. So what can they do now, then?
I tell you the first thing that every household in the country should do. Invest in buying a shredder. They're not very expensive, but it could be the best investment you've ever made.
And it's quite cathartic, shredder.
It is. It's good for you. It's like pressing those bubble things, isn't it? But, you know...
It is.
It's the best chicken bedding you can get.
It's great. It's so liberating. And also, you see, you should treat any of your personal details that give access to your money like the crown jewels. Protect them. So if you've got any piece of paper that's got details of your bank, of your credit card, of your mortgage, of anything you bought online or through the post, shred it, because any time you let down your defences, the criminals are going to find a way in and get to your hard-earned cash. You really must, you just have to keep going on at companies like Wonga and the rest of them and say, you know, that this is fraudulent, but you must also get in touch with every other company with whom you have any kind of commercial transaction and say to them, I've been the victim of fraud, you must keep an eye out on everything on my account just in case there's some sort of unusual action. And the other thing you can do if you really don't get any sort of satisfaction, you can make a formal complaint to the Financial Ombudsman.
Okay. And it wasn't long, lads, before that film had started, you were straight in saying, this is the real deal. I'm presuming that you've been victims, then, of some kind of fraud in the past.
Well, we're both broke, so nobody... you know, they've tried hard.
They've had a go, have they, Glenn?
They've failed every...
That's why we're here.
Well, you won't get much from this shot.
Actually, I bought an expensive dinner at a restaurant, and they gave me back somebody else's card, and they gave him mine. And we both used them for a couple of days before we caught it, and I'm telling you, I paid for some weird stuff.
You mean your credit card was having more fun than you were?
Yeah.
Yeah? When you got your statement back, did you see what he'd been spending?
Yeah.
Equally as weird?
Yeah.
OK. And Angela, there was a study out yesterday by Ofcom, and it said, maybe you boys aren't very good with this either, but it's about protecting your passwords and how you should come up with, you know, really lock-tight ones.
Yeah, I tell you what they also came up with. They discovered that 55% of the people in this country use exactly the same password for every single online account. Bad idea, guys. Bad idea. Change it. But also, apparently, 1 in 4 of us can't actually remember the password. So, viewers, so viewers, for the Eagles and for everybody else, look, this is where we want you to get involved in this, because we know that you've all got brilliant ideas when it comes to things like passwords. So what we want is for you to get in touch with us on the programme before the end of the programme. Email us with any tips you've got on how you can really make a very, very difficult, hard-to-crack password, and more importantly, how you can remember it, and then I'll read out some of them at the end of the programme. And I think we've got a couple of friends here who might find that quite useful.
Yes, good. Keep talking, you lot. Keep talking.
Thank you, Angela.
We can find out what Joe's been spending his money on anyway. Right, on we go.
Broadcaster Sophie Morgan knows all too well